Hey there, my name is Priyansh Nayak, and today I'll be showcasing three different reflectance models for my real-time learning course. Without further ado, I have a little GUI here that allows me to control the different factors that affect the shading. Light intensity basically just controls how strong the light system is, so we're going to leave it at 1. Whereas ambience controls the area that's being lit up over here. So if we put the light in the other direction, you can see this area is a lot more darker. So if we tone down the ambience, it becomes way more darker. So the shadows are a lot more dark here, it's a lot more strong. Whereas if we dial it all the way up, now a lot more of the area is getting lit up. There is minimum shadows and the impact is a lot more like very brightish. So we're also going to leave it around this area. So I'm going to start by talking about the center model, which uses Blinn-Phong shading, which is the classic empirical model that combines Lambert's diffusion with Blinn-Fong's specular technique. Um, how to identify this is by looking at this little blob of light that's getting reflected by the direct impact of it over here. There are two things that control this specular. First one is the specular strength. Think of this as the contribution towards the entire lighting system. So if we put it all the way down to zero, this lighting is entirely from diffusion. But if we dial it up, you can see that there's a very strong reflectance thing happening. And this is basically the specular aspect in play. Then comes the shininess, which is the exponent that controls the tightness of the highlight. So if we put it all the way down to zero, I can see that more of the surface, like the entirety of the surface, is contributing to the shininess. So this entire model can be called shiny. Every part of this is having specular lighting affected to it. But if we dial it all the way up, now you can see that the impact point, so the reflectance point is a lot more constructed. So it's more realistic that when you point a flashlight in a certain object, only a certain area of it will be the strongest and then the light falls off. So there's a lot of attenuation going on. So that's what this exponent controls. Then moving on, we have the non-photorealistic technique, which uses tone shading or as some may call cell shading. This is a technique that's often used in animated media like cartoon games or movies that basically replicates a classic comic book style, as you can see. So we're going to bring the light over here. You can see that it basically, the system builds upon the blend functioning technique, but it instead quantizes the light into discrete bands, you may call it. Basically, instead of going from a smooth transition, it has very sharp sections. And this particular level basically controls how much you want of that. So we can have multiple of them over here zoomed into, or we can have just two of them over there. And rim lighting is basically used in some media to make the model pop out a bit more to show more 2.5D style. This just allows you to, really make it pop up and make it a lot more cartoonish, you may call it. And then finally, we have our final guy over here, this one. This uses a physically based rendering technique, so it's a lot more realistic. That's used in modern games. It's called Cook Torrance BRDF. So this technique is based on a 1982 paper, and I'm using a more modernized approach to it. It basically simulates the model using, we call them microfacets, which think of them as the surface made up of millions of tiny little mirrors that reflect light at different angles. So there are three things that contribute to it. The distribution of macrofacets, first of all, like how many of them are contributing to it. Um, then there is the Fresnel reflectance as well as geometric self-shadowing. So these three components, they contribute all together to build the reflecting model, this is specular model. So as we saw earlier, when I turned on the ambience, this was a lot more realistic shadowing technique as compared to these ones, and it's all bright up. Now it's a lot more glossier. So I have two knobs over here that is contributing to this, the metallicness and the roughness. Metallicness, you can think of this as just as simple as it gets, how metallic the surface is. So right now I have it all the way set to 0. At this moment, the lighting that's contributing is mostly diffusion lighting as well as specular lighting. Whereas if I turn it all the way up, now diffusion is a lot less. So it's mostly getting um, produced by the little microfacets over there. So we go from, let's say, a very basic, like a almost like a plastic surface into a more metallic, let's say like gold almost. If and then there's roughness, which basically, as it implies, it controls the specular aspect of it. If you dial it all the way down, now it's a lot more glossy, a lot more smoother surface. So you can see that it's a very, very clearly glossier surface, even if the metallicness is turned all the way up. Whereas if it make it a lot rougher, so this is more like frosted, kind of like glayish almost, because right now there's no metallic factor to it. Whereas now, if I turn it up, now the energy is getting bounced back. So now it's a more like frosted metal almost. So this is how it's used in modern games. And I can also show you like let's putting it a little yellowish color. So right now you can think of this as almost like a copperish surface. And if I make it all smoother, you can think of it as like gold almost. And if I dial down the metallicness, we go from like a clay pot to more like a plastic pot. I can also further showcase this by just putting on a little texture over here, and we can really see how these three different systems work now with an actual texture in place. So you can see that once this is all loaded, now it's a lot more dark, so it needs a stronger lighting, and we can bring it really close by and zoom in a little bit. As you can see, it's right now it's sort of simulating like a plastic model. This guy is very, very toonish, and this one similar to the classic Blinn-Phong guy. Right now it's making a little bit poppier, it's most lost up. And we can add to the metallic factor of it. So it now it looks like a metallic clay pot. And you can see this barely, the color is getting barely reflective. Whereas if we tone it down, I can actually see the base color of it. Similarly, if I tune down the roughness, now it's more like a plasticish floor or pot, or more like a very shine down clay pot. Now I turn it all the way up, and you can see that it's very, very similar to the BRD, but just more, way more realistic in how it controls ambience, how it controls shadows. And so, yeah, that's all for my demo. I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for watching.